Okay. Congratulations on the movie. It's another great dystopian movie alongside another one you were in, Children of Men.
Yeah.
What would you say are the key differences between Children of Men and Z for Zachariah?
Wow, yeah. There's so many. In a strange way, there's like a lot of similarities. In a film, it's almost as if this film starts where that film ends. That everybody's out of time in Children of Men. And therefore have to deal with all of these kind of first principles all over again. Systems of government, justice, normalizing relationships between men and women. And in this film, that's exactly the same thing that's happening over again, but from the other perspective, that there's nobody around. And so how do you sort of deal with your relationships, your interpersonal relationships, when the film starts with essentially a two-hander with John Loomis, who I play, and Anne, who Margot Robbie plays, trying to figure out their sort of Adam and Eve, but for reals scenario, and whether they can actually figure it out, and have this kind of relationship that they sort of need to have, that in terms of the human survival, But the problem is, in the reality of that, the last thing you want to do is get into a bad relationship with the last woman on earth. I mean, that would really suck. So, so trying to sort of figure out those details is sort of takes up, half of the film, and as they kind of dance around each other. And then obviously all of that is kind of blown out of the water by the arrival of another guy. And in that sense, you start to sort of have to deal with all of those themes all over again.
Yeah, and it's interesting because your character, I mean, he's a scientist, he suffered from PTSD, he goes through a number of different emotions in the film, and I understand you and the director worked a lot on the character's backstory.
Yeah, we did. We wanted to really try and, Craig Zobel and I directed the film, we wanted to really try and figure out the kind of psychology of John Loomis, a very complicated psychology. Clearly a very bright, interesting guy, obviously traumatized by what he's experienced, what he's done, and what he's seen, and very cerebrally led, and so him arriving in this place is, he's trying to he's sort of trying to figure out all the details of everything all the time, and trying to figure out Anne and trying to figure out the relationship, and yet both Anne and Caleb, Chris Pine, are both sort of very instinctual, front-footed people. And so that challenges him in kind of a unique way. His science cannot kind of counteract their emotional dynamism.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, compared to a lot of other dystopian movies, this one feels a lot more intimate.
Yeah.
And how important was that to you? Did that attract you more to the role?
I loved it. I love the idea of just doing a two-hander, essentially a two-hander for the first half, a three-hander for the second half. I just love the idea of just sort of really looking into characters and building tension by just what is inherent in people, and how people operate, how they behave, which can be just so dramatic, and you don't need all the other sequences, the
Right.
car chase is irrelevant, you just sort of. It's just the details of people can be as tense as anything else.
Absolutely, yeah. It's nice to see a dystopian movie that concentrates more on character than it does on spectacle.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes this movie really stand out.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Chiwetel.
Pleasure. Thank you.